What is going on, bros? We're starting a new week here on Investing Bros. I'm T Shroom, and we are going to make it happen today. We're going to have some fun. This episode is brought to you by who we trust over at iTrust Capital, where you can buy and sell crypto within your IRA tax advantaged account. One of the best ways to invest in crypto. Guys, I wanted to dispel a myth this morning, a little bit of a myth that is starting to emerge, I'm seeing, which is this. Can Ethereum outshine Bitcoin in May? These analytics weigh in. I'm not going to get into the article so much as the proliferation and distribution of this concept of Ethereum outpacing Bitcoin. Whether it happens in May, who knows? We saw over the weekend, Ethereum got a nice pop, and Bitcoin kind of stayed sideways. But what I want to dispel is that I do not think we are in phase 2 yet. Right, phase 2 is where Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin, and we hear talks of the flippening. I think we saw some uncharacteristic moves over the weekend that had more to do, I think, with probably whale buying in Ethereum than any kind of cyclical shift out of Bitcoin and into Ethereum in the run-up to altcoin season. I think what we're seeing is just an abnormal spike for Ethereum that is not a signal of Ethereum approaching what we could consider an outperformance of Bitcoin. The main point to illustrate this is that Bitcoin has not really started to peak out yet at all. Some estimates are saying that Bitcoin hasn't even begun the real bull market. Others are saying that we've seen the highs. So there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of discontinuity between traders and investors. I think Bitcoin has quite a bit higher to go throughout the rest of this year and into 2025. And the conversation for alt season and Ethereum starting to outpace Bitcoin and calls for Ethereum flipping Bitcoin, probably we won't get that until late fall of 2024, in my opinion. So let me know. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think this is the moment where Ethereum is going ahead and shifting? We're going out of phase 1 and into phase 2, and Ethereum becomes, dominant and starts to outperform Bitcoin leading into altcoin season. I certainly don't, but we are seeing more and more headlines like this, kind of predicting an Ethereum outpacing Bitcoin. Now, it could happen in May. It could happen today, right? There could be exceptions, but I think in general, we aren't seeing Ethereum put up 12, 22, 15% days while Bitcoin is up only 2% or 4%, for a week. We need to see sustained movement to the upside for Ethereum in double-digit daily growth, where Bitcoin is only in single-digit daily growth or even a loss, before you can start to say that we're in this phase 2. Now, some of you don't even believe in these phases, and that's fine. We're just on a different wavelength. Thanks for tuning in to the Investing Bros. If you think that you're going to be getting some alpha here, which already you have, go ahead and smash the like button for me, and also consider liking this like button. Smashing that like button goes a long way, and when eventually you get something like this. You reach 15,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for everyone who's subscribed. It is really, really good that you have. We can't thank you enough. Hopefully the sound effect is not super long. There we go. All right, let's move into the news here. We'll look at the Bitcoin charts as well, but I just want to relish this moment. It's nice to see. All right, for the bros, let's go ahead and check out some of the news here. I've got the Japanese yen to the dollar pulled up here, and as you can see, it is just absolutely plummeting down at levels not seen since 1990. This is a chart going back all the way. The dinosaur cuts off here at 1986. So that's very far back, right? This isn't good. Now, one thing I wanted to look at that I thought would be interesting is actually looking at Bitcoin to the Japanese yen, which I have pulled up. Now, obviously, it's not going to go back to 1990. But one thing you can see here is that Bitcoin has recently had a pullback in the month of April. Yeah, I guess because that's just in general. So let's go down to a lower time frame. So not exactly what you'd think. You'd think that maybe Bitcoin would be shooting up here, but it's basically staying flat, even down on the day. Yeah, we had a rough weekend, folks. All right. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get into the headlines. Then we'll circle back and take a look at Bitcoin price and other cryptos. Japanese yen strengthens sharply after hitting 160 against the dollar for the first time since 1990. So exactly, there was a nice pullback to the upside, a little bit of strengthening, but unfortunately, the yen is now in question whether or not it's failing. Today's JPY volatility may reflect the skittishness of markets amid thin liquidity. For those of you who English isn't your first language, skittishness, just kind of uncertainty, fear. Reflect the fear of markets amid thin liquidity. We will unlikely receive comments from Japanese officials today because Japan is on holiday, the bank said. Good thing to note. Japanese authorities have repeatedly warned against excessive moves in the yen, but have made no official announcements about bolstering the currency. Some market watchers had suspected authorities would intervene at the 155 level, but the yen slid past that this last week. So, very important. You're sitting there, teach room. I do not care about the yen. What the heck? Why is this relevant? Well, because in Forex, there are only a couple of trading pairs that really matter, and the JPY to USD is one, right? So it's one to pay attention to, and it is a reflection of the thin liquidity, as CNBC puts it. And thin liquidity is not what you want to see when you're invested in a risk asset like Bitcoin, right? So does it matter if you have zero JPY right now? If you don't have Japanese currency, it kind of doesn't affect you today. No, but this is a harbinger. This is information coming from the macro saying liquidity is thin right now. So that's something to be continuing to monitor. I believe this came off the heels of the Japanese central bank saying that they were going to keep rates at zero. So that is the Japanese story there. Let's go ahead, before we get into the rest of the news, go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin. I've got it pulled up here. And I want to not overwhelm everybody with all the lines and squiggles and everything. So let's just zoom right in here. I'm on the daily chart. And as you can see, we have pushed down quite a bit lower than that 64.8 level. And this is the level that I really want to see Bitcoin close above in the month of April. We've got a couple of days to do it. We need a bullish push in order to get back up above this 64.8 level. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments. Do you think that we're going to get a return to that level and a monthly candle close above 64.8? At this rate, the answer looks like it's no, right? And that would be bearish, and that would essentially, for me, say that we do need to come back at least to the golden pocket and test lower to really see how serious the bulls are at this level. Can we maintain a $60,000 Bitcoin or not? Or do we need to test lower and get back into some liquidity pockets and start to rebuild that price structure? Right now, I'm seeing more movement to the downside than the upside. We've given up the platinum pocket and have rejected very strongly off of it. I just think the golden pocket is next, right? And what does that mean for you? It means pain, right? It means you need to consider, are you overexposed here? Can you survive if Bitcoin comes down to 56, the golden pocket, and then stays there for a while into June, right? Can you survive? Would your finances be okay? Can you keep paying your bills? Right? These are all the questions you need to ask, and it's better to ask them while Bitcoin is up at 63,000 still, right? So that's the bearish case, right? Could we go lower than the golden pocket? Absolutely, we could. There's definitely, some arguments for 52, I think, being in. And of course, this consolidation right around 50 to 51 is also intact, right? So that's something to consider as well. However, I'm thinking that the golden pocket is going to supply that support that we would be looking for. But overall, things are looking somewhat bearish. However, it's Bitcoin, right? And Bitcoin can surprise you. And there is a lot of bullishness in the headlines right now. And just because the yen is showing weakness doesn't mean that investors in the market couldn't interpret that weakness and other weakness that we'll see here in just a second in the news as a buy thesis for rotating into Bitcoin. Let's throw on the Bollinger Bands. Let's kill this channel and take a look at what the Bollinger Bands have been doing. So far, we have rejected off that midline of the Bollinger Band back on the 23rd, and the midline has not really been a factor. Both the top Bollinger Band is pointing down, and that bottom band is pointing steady here on the daily chart. Let's take a look at the MACD for the daily. Red histograms accelerating predictably, but what is that? I would say very reserved. So it's not picking up heavily like it was back here. This to me is showing signs of just continued range-bound movement, which if we throw that channel back on, take away the Bollinger Bands, take away that fib, then you can see that we are still well within this channel, and we could find support on it. I mean, theoretically, we will at 6%. The question is, will it hold there? And do we eminently just need to come back and test these fib levels that would put us just below the channel? I mean, but could even trade sideways for another week, and then by that time, the channel will probably be intersecting here around at 58.4, 58.3 level. I think, again, I'm saying all this because I do think that these levels are in play. A test down to these levels and then a move higher, I think, is likely what we'll see. But it's a big week. It's a big week for Bitcoin. It's a big week for crypto. I've got these lines drawn as well. I think both of these have been invalidated at this point. I'll kill these. We've got another level here. This one's going back to these candlestick closes back here. This purple level here at 61.7. Another level to watch, and that could be one that we see in play today. These lower levels, I should say, of the golden pocket and this downtrending line of support from the trade channel we're in, I don't necessarily think that those will be in play until later this week. I mean, a 6% move can happen for Bitcoin, right? But I think it's more likely that happens over the span of a week rather than the span of 24 or 48 hours. So just keeping that in mind. But also keeping in mind that we can see massive candlestick days. I mean, this was 8%. This one here, this was probably around the same amount, 6%. So it's possible, right? But that's the kind of thing we're keeping an eye on here. All right. So what should you do, right? If you do have some dry powder, I would hold off on deploying right now. You know, if you're open to modifying your DCA schedule, I would hold off and just kind of see just how far to the downside we can get before the month of April is over and deploy accordingly, right? You know, worst case scenario, Bitcoin shoots back up to 73,000, right? And you missed your DCA, right? Just buy it up there. You know, that's not the end of the world for one DCA, for the potential to buy a bit lower. Now, if you're not someone who's open to modifying, that's just as fine, right? Sticking to your principles of a non-modifiable DCA schedule is 100% totally fine. But if you're open, I think today is probably a good day to delay that DCA if you had it scheduled and wait a little bit lower. All right, let's go ahead and get into some more news here. Tesla jumps 12% in pre-market trading after passing key hurdle to roll out full self-driving in China. So let's take a look at the stock here, going into the stock market world. For Tesla, we'll take a look at the price per share. Woo! Okay, so in pre-market, it's at 190, and that's already 36% off the lows. So if you were buying here with the Eric Wallen distressed stock motivation here, you are already being rewarded. Of course, the zero line for this massive fib I've got drawn out on the weekly. Let's peek that real quick. I've got this fib drawn, and it goes all the way from this low down here at like what, $15 or whatever, all the way to the top, and then the pullback in this general uptrend. And this would put the zero line back here at basically $100 for Tesla. Now Tesla trading in pre-market in the opposite direction, up 190 on that China news. That news that China's regulation is going to be more favorable for Tesla's business model. So that's good, right? That's good for Tesla. For the record, I have not entered Tesla. I have sold it. I think I sold it way back up here, or somewhere like in here. So yeah, somewhere around in the 300s, I believe. So that's the long. No. I sold it here. That's right. I sold it because I noticed that we were going to start getting rejected off of this. We ended up pushing through, but then we pulled back. So I'm glad I sold it right around 250. That's where it was. Overall, Tesla's a very significant, becoming more and more significant in my mind as a potential way to diversify in case the crypto bull market becomes more muted or delayed, some might say. Let's kill this fib and just take a look at Lux Algo price action concepts because we have only spent there's very little time here in the discount zone for Tesla, right? And that was all the way back last year. This January of last year. I think that even though we are seeing a pump on some good fundamental news from China, statistically, I have this gut feeling. Well, statistically, I have a gut feeling. Let's go with the gut feeling, not statistically. Gut feeling is that we do need to come back and pull back into at least 115, back into the discount zone before we go higher. But to hedge your bets, it may not be a bad time to go ahead and start getting exposure to Tesla. And that is 100% what's on my mind right now. Starting to feel the FOMO as you see a 12% pump in pre-market for the EV automaker brand. Australia's Securities Exchange could approve spot Bitcoin ETF before 2024 end. That's one of the bullish news. But don't go out and mortgage your home on this because more than likely this is only going to be a very little amount of allocation compared to the United States. Has put in about 12 and some change billion into the Bitcoin ETFs. Now it was in 75 days that we've achieved this. However, the liquidity conditions in Australia and in Hong Kong are as such that they're not going to be anywhere near as aggressive. Now that could potentially be wrong, but more than likely it's not. It's going to be a fraction of the 12 billion that we've seen allocated into the spot ETFs here domestically in the United States. You can see that kind of proven out here. 12 billion exactly net inflows since launch, according to Dune. So let's go ahead and jump on into the chat. I see Crux of Crypto said he living rent-free in your head. Somebody's getting some rent-free in someone else's head. I don't know any context of that, but let's see. Shimetrice said Tesla hit that bottom diagonal support and it had a falling wedge. Let's check it back at that real quick. Yeah, you could see a falling wedge here. Diagonal support. Talking about this one maybe? Probably this. Yeah. Oh, maybe she is talking about this one. Dang, it did hit that. If I extend that out, wow, that's interesting. Maybe so this could be the bottom. I don't know if that's how that works. If you can just extend that out. Maybe. I mean, it's there. We're looking at it, but I would say that that's not the strongest technical analysis for me. But maybe we'll run it by Tim on the 3 p.m. show. We'll see. See what he thinks about that. I mean, it's there. We're looking at it, right? But I would say that I would have liked to have seen that come down from lows from the trend that we're currently in. Lines from a previous trend that were then, invalidated by a move that broke the trend to the upside, are less significant, in my opinion. Tops and bottoms, right, that haven't been achieved are significant, and sometimes you can get diagonal with those. Now, maybe that's what you're talking about here. Let's look at that. Because this would be significant. Dang. All right, so you got that uptrending line of support. That was hit. That is a lot more compelling. This would be a much more sound argument from a technical analyst standpoint for a bottom being in for Tesla. So, just furthering that thesis that going ahead and getting exposure to Tesla may not be a bad idea. Now, some of you might be like, but crypto is going to perform so much better. It will, right? But that's not an argument. There's never an argument against diversification. So from current prices, we'd be seeing a 119% move to the upside back to all-time high. Of course, Tesla could go higher than that. will go higher than that, in my opinion. But back down to the bottom prices, if we do return, let's go all the way back down to the discount zone from Lux Algo to all-time high would be 250% move. So definitely not going to be as good as crypto gains, but nothing to shake a stick at. If you're looking to invest, maybe a little more than just your 10% risk tranche for crypto, you're looking to maybe put 100,000, 300,000 into a stock if that's your risk tolerance. Then Tesla's looking really good now, and it may get more attractive, meaning we could see more downside for Tesla. But right now the market's hitting it up, saying, "What's up, yo? Let's see what's going on here." One thing not going very well is First Republic Bank. U.S. regulators seize troubled lender Republic First, sell it to Fulton Bank. Okay. So pretty much the details are in the title, but let's see what we can't pull out here. Let's see. Philadelphia-based Republic First. I thought it was First Republic. Why is it saying Republic First? Anyway, which had abandoned funding talks with a group of investors, was seized by the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. So that's not good. That's not what you want to hear. Hopefully none of you all are banking with Republic First, any of our northern audience, Northern American. But there you go. So they're screwed. And they're going to be getting purchased by Fulton Bank. So when I say screwed, I mean it's only so limited, right? I'm sure the executives will be just fine. Don't you worry. But they're getting absorbed by a larger bank, right? That can afford to buy them, or is being pressured to buy them. Some might say by the TradFi establishment, but that, along with the Japanese story, right, doesn't paint a very good picture for the fiat debt-based system of global financial dealings, right? What does it paint? It paints instability and a lack of liquidity, right? Thin liquidity. And is that playing out in the crypto markets? It does seem to be playing out over the weekend and today, right? But that could change. There could be a rotation into crypto as more and more folks look at the landscape of traditional finance and they say, this is going to hell in a handbasket. I need to get into at least some Bitcoin and diversify out of these traditional assets. L. Thoro said, T-Shroom, is the date for the migrations from Fetch AI into ASI delayed? Date is gone, I guess. That's a good question. When is that migration date, that vote? I know that there was a vote to be held, and then the migration. Crux, maybe you could help us out with that, or someone else. Trade Intuition just smashed the like. That's what's up. That's very nice to see. Yeah, make sure you guys are smashing that like button. It really goes a long way to help us with the algorithm. But you all tune in to get some of the most update news that's going to be affecting your portfolio. That's why you tune in to the Investing Bros, to hear the sultry sounds of T-Shroom as he goes through the crypto news. Let's keep on moving here. Bitcoin, Ether, nurses loss as U.S. stagflation fears grip the market. I don't know about the stagflation fears. I'm personally not feeling the fear of stagflation, but apparently it's gripping the market, and that's why we're seeing downside. What I do like about this article is they have a pretty good synopsis here of the key to continuing Bitcoin bull market in the U.S. Treasury impending quarterly refunding announcement, which maintains or reduces the current TGA balance of $750 billion. So Treasury General Account, TGA. The $750 billion figure is the TGA is key because it serves as a significant signal to financial markets about the U.S. government's fiscal intentions, profoundly impacting economic stability and growth. You thought it was as simple as the bond market and the Federal Reserve. You thought you'd gotten your head around macro. Well, there's another department that does similar activity to monetary policy, and it's called the U.S. Treasury. Over there, Janet Yellen, right? If we go to Fred.St. Louis, is the St. Louis Fed. They post a lot of really important macroeconomic data. You can see that this is that TGA. This is the Treasury General Account, the weekly average. And right now it's actually rocking out at 941. So I'm pretty sure that's 940 billion, which is approaching $1 trillion. And this is the amount of money essentially that's on their balance sheet that could be rotated into the economy. Now, of course, I would certainly hope that they don't dump it all at one time. But if they did, that would be a big boon for risk assets. We also reported last week that they're also going to be reporting on May 1st that decision and the decision of whether or not they're going to flood the market with bonds, which would have an interesting effect on risk assets. That is as follows. If you issue new bonds, there's less scarcity in the bond market, right? And then the bonds become less valuable, which pushes bond prices, the value of the bonds, lower, but yields higher. The bond yields and the bond value are two different things. When one goes up, the other goes down, and vice versa. So if you issue new supply of bonds, which Janet Yellen could do, they could say that they're going to do that, but industry commenters think that that's not what's going to happen. They're actually going to pause new issuance of bonds. Okay, we covered this last week. That does what? Makes bond values, right, greater because there's more scarcity now, kind of like the Bitcoin halving. If they cut supply of new bonds, bond value goes up and yields come down. And in some crazy magical way, that actually boosts the potential for risk assets like Bitcoin, Solana, Microsoft, and Tesla, right? So May 1st is a very significant day, and we're here at the end of the show, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. The markets are opening. Tesla is getting that bid higher. Make sure that you're subscribing and smashing that like button. Guys, it's going to be a big week for Bitcoin. It's going to be a big week for Ethereum and the rest of crypto. We're going to see what happens here. I want to go to the crypto bubbles to see if we've seen any change to the bloodbath that I opened my app this morning and saw. H&T getting a bid higher, up 16%. We'll have more information on why that is. Wormhole up 2.7, Lido up 4, SEI up 2.5%. You can't see it there because of my bar. But outside of those names, you have a sea of red here on the daily chart. Okay, CRO, CRO up 0.7, not even up 1%. But so while some names are clinging to the green, mostly we're seeing a sea of red. Leading lower is Core, down 9.4%. So I'm taking this type of information in stride. I'm not thinking that this is going to be, the beginning of some huge reversal to the downside for crypto. I think more than likely we've seen a lot of selling. We could see more, but I don't think that we're in for some huge whale of a 70% sell-off for crypto assets or something like this. I think we do continue to see downward pressure on assets, on altcoins, but ultimately we will find some support, and the Bitcoin supply shock will kick in. Hong Kong, Australia, and even American ETFs, European ETFs in the UK, and I believe somewhere else in Europe as well have Bitcoin spot ETFs coming out for institutions. All of these bullish catalysts will play out for hodlers of crypto assets such as Bitcoin and altcoins. And this will be very bullish. I mean, we're not seeing too much that is giving us a clear signal of what's going to happen today and tomorrow, right? But by May 1st, we'll have some pretty clear indications of what the Federal Reserve is going to do and what the Treasury are going to do. And those are going to play a huge role in liquidity, right? Liquidity. It's like location for your risk assets. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been T-Shroom, and I will continue to be T-Shroom. Let's go ahead and make sure that we're staying hydrated today, bros. And if you're trading, keep your stop losses tight. Adios.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots that bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shouted out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms news got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividends. Trying to make paper. Turn that better to cake. Money like Lego. Connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros.
Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros.